Thank you all for showing up today for this Android Study Gems. But before we begin our session on this, we would like to introduce ourselves once again formally. We are the Google Developer Students Club. What we do, next slide. What we do is that we spread awareness about open source. Since most of I feel the audience is from the very first year, you all have no idea what really like open source is about or how you will kickstart your development, because everybody is like GSOC and all everything. So you need to start somewhere, right? So this is one of our main reasons why we are doing this here today. So other than that, of course, when you are trying to develop something, eventually the goal is to solve problems rather than how many apples can someone buy. 1500 apples has get sold, and those kind of problems, those are not real life problems, right? Real life problems are completely different. They might be real life, but not usually. So those kind of problems, you need to model them using your computer science and electronics background knowledge, and using that you have to model real life problems, and that is one form of development. Rather than like, I'm using this module XYZ, machine learning and all. That's not development. Development is, you need to create something which helps people eventually, right? So that is what we do. And of course, what's in it for you? Why are we doing this? Well, first of all, of course, there's, like last year we had few speakers. Aditya Paliwal was one of them, and he was one of our like pretty famous like hyped up alumni. He was one of the finalists in ACM ICPC. For those who don't know what ACM ICPC is, will know it soon. It's like the pinnacle of competitive programming. So he gave a speaker, and he was a good developer too. He was one of the students who had it overseas, like if you talk about in terms of placement, by Google. So other than that, now we are having this workshop. Last year there was also a scheme on Google Cloud. This year we have it on Android, and hopefully if this is a successful event, we may have more on other technologies. Basically through GDSC, we try to promote the technologies which Google provide and make it aware. Because most of the time people don't know that these technologies exist. People are stuck to the usual YouTuber bhaiyas and they follow whatever they want, but there are pretty good technologies out there, even provided by Google. It's not limited to them, but yeah. So now, beginning to the official program, Android Study Jams. Now, you have received like plenty of spams in your mails, in your WhatsApp groups, but what is it actually about? Next. Well, you need we'll try to answer 3 questions here today. Why are you here? Of course. What are your goals? Eventually, when you go out of this room, you need to have some goals preset here, and how do you plan to achieve them? So before we go on, why are you here? You need to know what the program is about. So it's basically like it's like a study group, right? Remember in times of in your college exams too, or before that, you form like small groups and studied an entire topic. Well, nightmare topics like rotation or whatever it is. So you made small groups and tried to solve the problem together, right? This is similar to that, but here you end up doing something which adds to your skill rather than like increasing 5 or 10 marks or like XYZ ranks or something. So what you do is, it's a series of sessions. You'll have 3 sessions in total, and it will help you to like get into the world of Android development. We're not going to say at the end of this 3 sessions you will become a very good Android developer. That's not possible. That's not possible even for someone working in Google. You can never be perfect. But what's the harm in trying, right? The worst thing is you're going to make a good project, it's going to end up on your resume, right? So before we start, like there are so many fields like computer programming, app development, like web development, then like scraping and all. And why are you like going to mobile at first? Out of nowhere, why are you going to mobile? See, in India, like I'm not going to talk about US and all. The statistics might be of US, but I don't think they will be much relevance to you. But in India, mostly people get mobile phones before a laptop. Who are they? I'm one of them. Yes. We all got a mobile phone before our laptops, right? See, that's exactly the point. So if you're trying to model a solution to some problem, you need a larger audience, right? You don't need 2 people sitting in a room and only they know about your, like, I would call it an invention or a discovery or a rediscovery. So you need some efficient ways to project your ideas and the solutions to your problems. So, and it helps in engagement, right? Phones are much more wider, like thanks to many telecom networks, and eventually, for your own, it increases your value as a programmer, because everybody, at the end of the day, everybody knows C++, everybody knows Java. Eventually, everybody will learn C, Python, all the modules. but you need to give back something so that there is a value, right? Like the value added services, right? You don't like a specific service provider because of the basic services provided. What the value added, the extra services they give, that's what makes a celebrity. So, next slide. So why Android? Like how many of you have Android here? I should be asking that. Yeah, at least maximum, right? Again, this answers your questions. Why Android, right? So I don't need to explain this much to you. You have your answer. You have the larger population, right? When you're trying to market yourself as a programmer, who would you go for more? Android development, right? Because the larger population in our country, especially in our country, when you're thinking, you don't have to think about United States directly. You have to think about India. In India, the larger demography uses Android now. So because of this reason, Android is a very vibrant ecosystem, and it's preferable that you kickstart your journey using Android. So this is the most important part, prerequisites, right? Basic computer literacy, like that includes like most of like the basic programming language constructs, which can be learned for any language. It's not limited. If you know C, I cannot do Java. You can eventually learn Java. Eventually, if you can learn Java, then of course you can learn Kotlin. It's not limited, because until unless you don't start, if you believe that I will do XYZ course and then I will become good at programming languages, it's a big lie. Trust us, we are like your second year seniors, even your third year seniors, 4-year seniors are going to agree that if you do a course, that's not what learning a programming language or a tech stack means. So basic math skills, I think I don't have to, like, in a country like India, people are overachiever in math, so I don't have to like emphasize on this much. Computer and headphones, of course, you need some platform to write your code, work in it, and eventually an internet connection, because at the end of the day, you're trying to develop something for Google, and Google is your best friend. Okay, so an Android device and USB cable, that's entirely your choice. It's not necessary, because I'll tell you later why it's not very necessary. Next. So how would you start, right? I said you need to organize yourself and study in groups. But how? Which resources go for? Well, what Google is trying to do is they're trying to create a course which is entirely for beginners like you, who has little or no experience in programming, and they can just go into and start working on apps. The good part of working on apps is you'll see what is happening. It's not like print this, the area of circle is this. That doesn't give you a sense of achievement. But when you see an app running on your phone, you're clicking next and it is reacting, responsive, you get a sense of achievement, and that motivates you to do more. So Google has created a course known as Android Basics in Kotlin. It was released like few months back, and now it's open for all. That's why we are organizing this in this month. Otherwise, you could have organized it any other time. It's open for all starting from this month. So next. So here you will start. You will explicitly develop the code on Kotlin. So what is Kotlin and all will come a bit later in the slide. And why Kotlin? Because those senior students who are here for the session, they might answer why not Flutter or any other framework. So see, what the benefit of the course is, it will give you a complete roadmap. Like from Android Basics, building your first app, writing a first program. It has a complete interactive documentation based approach, which you can use to like understand the basic syntax. First you have to understand the syntax, and then you have to understand, then you have to develop your understanding the how am I going to model a problem based on the syntax I know. Okay, so this are set of, they are known as code labs. Okay, next slide. After each code lab, or after a series of code labs, you will take a simple quiz. It's basically like your theoretical concepts, and it's pretty easy to qualify, since I myself have done this course, most of the course, so I know the quizzes are pretty easy. If you go through code labs, well, that's fine. Earn badges. Now what's badges? I'm coming a bit later in the next slide. Your developer profile. Wait, come back. Yeah, your developer profile. See, if you're doing a lot of things and people don't know anything about it, you're practically useless. That's the truth of life. People need to know what you are doing and how you are doing it. It might be very small, but someone with a greater marketing skill will be a greater entrepreneur, a greater technological survivor. Otherwise, you are not going to survive. So what the most important thing is, you need to project these achievements to your developer profile. Developer.google, just Google search it, developer Google, you will get your own profile. Use your Gmail account, make a developer profile. You can add your images, you can add your interest too, if you are interested in XYZ things. And that developer profile later can be used for other things also. And keep your profile public. That's very important. See, when we are searching for candidates somewhere, they will if you link your developer profile, and you have done a lot of things there. You have deployed something, or it will show up on your thing directly. And it gives a very good first impression. And badges. What does badges mean? You've done this course, no one would know about, right? The badges are the main things. When you earn the badge, it's going to show up directly. That this person has done this things. And that leaves an instant remark. It's like same, right? When you're browsing through LinkedIn, looking at your seniors' profiles, you automatically see, right, this things they have done, and you have a good impression about them before even you meet the person. That's how it works. It's like a hierarchy. It's whether you talk in corporate, whether you talk in college. The same is going to stick to you later too. So that's why. And eventually, try, if you build an app, participate in the hackathon. There is going to be one hackathon, probably tentatively in the first week of January, so that you all can learn the entire thing. We are giving you almost 20 days time. I will not say month because you need your break too. But the fun part of hackathons is, especially for those who have never been in hackathons. How many are those who have never been taken part in hackathons? Right? Right? Good. So this, what happens in a hackathon is, in a much more different format is, you get 1 or 2 days. You're given a problem statement, you need to write solutions for it. It may be in form of web dev, Android dev, mobile dev, not Android, limiting to Android, mobile dev, or any other form. Mostly it's web dev or Android dev, and based on that you win exciting prizes, of course. And more, if you want to be too greedy, that can become your project, which might define you in your college. Because there is one senior, I'm going to quote his name, Satvik Ramprasad. He is known for making only one thing in this college. He became ultra famous, circuit bus. He was an excellent student, but people don't remember him for his excellent grades or something. People remember him because he created circuit bus. No one thought of it before. That's how hackathons work. Either you have to think something which no one has thought it before, or if you have to think something which someone has already thought it over, but you have to do it better. You have to increase its efficiency, or you have to increase its accuracy later. So that's how hackathon works. So it's a good way to enforce forced learning. That's what my friends tell me, that when you're going to participate in a hackathon, it's forced learning. Because people, I hate to say it, but they work much better under a deadline. If you say within 6 months I will do this kind of thing and learn this thing, it's pretty hard to keep your mind, especially in your college years. So hackathon brings that opportunity for you to take part. See, even if it's a bad project, later you can improve it and make it a mega project. If it's a good project, you win prizes. That's even great, better. And at the end of the day, when you're in your second or third year and you're trying to make your own resumes and all, you need to show something, right? That what have I done other than studies? Am I a bookworm? I need to show something, right? That I have done this. I tried to solve this problem. Therefore, we are at the end of the whole study process. We're going to have a hackathon. We'll release the guidelines soon, in December, 3rd week, or in the last week, so that you get a head start to what to do and how to think about. And a bit of ideas we'll try to project today. And even if you don't do anything, you will eventually get a certificate from Google. The sample is attached there. We have not the sample, that is the sample. You're going to receive a certificate, and for someone who has not taken participate in a hackathon, that's a very good certificate to keep, that you participate in a Google-led hackathon, right? Developer Students Club hackathon. So that's why you should do a hackathon, and eventually this is the biggest prize IIIT Bangalore GDSC is looking for. The best app which we are going to send, if it's up to the mark set by Google, it will be featured on their official page. That's the most important reason why you all are called here today at 9 and I'm speaking at 9:15. There is no other specific reason. This is the main reason. This is our target. As a college, we need to make impact in the community, that we are a college not to be messed with. And this is the target you need to achieve with your quality of app. Okay, next. So eventually, this is kind of the roadmap what you're going to learn throughout the course. The course will be available on developer.googles.com. We'll add all the links, we'll show you the links, and we'll share the slides with you. And so starting with introduction to Kotlin. Kotlin is a functional programming language. You will understand what functional programming language is. Soon when you start the course, they go through it from the absolute zero. For someone who doesn't know programming, they try to drag it from there. And it's good that most of you have some idea now, considering some of them in second month of their course. So Then you have to like basic layouts and all. Layouts is like how app is structured. Like it's the skeleton of the app. You need to have a skeleton organization of some sorts, right? You cannot just drag and drop stuff and say that this is a good app, right? Otherwise, UI engineers would stop, UI, UX people would stop, like lose their relevance if you say that we can do this. But the thing is, layouts are a pretty important topic which we want to highlight here. That layout is a very important topic. It's better you learn it properly. And then other things are functionalities, adding more functionalities. Can I add buttons? Can I add inputs? Can I add radio buttons? Can I add a drop-down list? Next week. Next week. Fine. Come back. Yeah. So after that, how do you do a scrollable list? How do you navigate between pages? That's very important. A single page app, do you like? Don't, right? Flipkart, if you imagine it was only a single page, would you have liked it? No. Right? So how will you go into multiple pages and how will you merge those multiple pages, making coherent sense? Next. Eventually, like the most important concept here is understanding the architecture, how there is a interface between the software and the hardware, and coroutines. Coroutines is somewhat like a parallel processing, and you'll understand it much better when you start doing it. If I tell you now, it's going to be a lot of technical jargons thrown at you out of nowhere, and you will be demotivated to do it. So, yeah, next. Eventually, see, you have an app, you want to store information somewhere, right? You need to have a database, right? If you're trying to create, suppose, an attendance management system for your college. You need to have, right, someone's name. Otherwise, I'm going to just go there and I'm going to write anyone's name. I'm going to write who? Rick Astley or John Cena or anything. I can write there out of nowhere and there will be no meaning, right? So you need to like have something checking whether the thing is correct, whether the thing is not erroneous. So because of that, you need to eventually learn how to handle databases. This course also handles it for you. That's the biggest part. You're not learning only one thing. Coroutines is a topic which like is similar to threading. It's not exactly this, but it's similar to threading. It's done in Java in your second year, but you're still learning it now way before. So that always is a plus point if you look. At least in your Indian mindset, you will feel that I'm ahead of some people at least. So then at last is the work manager. How it's an API, how like you schedule background work, how the app runs in background. The neat part is that now you will start appreciating the apps which you're using. You are not gonna rage on the apps. Now you're gonna appreciate. Okay, this is trying to do this background stuff. Even if you like don't make a very good app, you eventually understand how things are working. And when you know how things are working, you know how to improve them. And that is whole another part of development, open source development, solving issues. Creating things is one of them. You can either make things, break things, and fix things. There are three things in development: make things, fix things, and break things. Breaking is also important. If you're a software tester, your thing is to break it, so that somebody else after deployment doesn't break it. And then there is fixing things. So this will help you if you understand how the things are working. Later when you are going to look for things like Google Summer of Code and all, you're looking for projects, right? So to fix stuff. So you need to understand how the things work in the background. Then only you can comment, okay, this is the improvement I can make. So that's why it's important to, at last, like, that's why the important background apps, right? You don't know how things run in background. So yeah, this is the course content which Google has provided. We'll add all the links and how like to start. Next. Now we're going to give you some overview, right? I didn't say talk about Kotlin much. So Kotlin, it's like a function, it's like a functional program. It's a functional programming language. It's similar to what Java is, but Java is much more on the object-oriented side of things, and you will learn what object-oriented is again in the course. See, that's the neat part. You're learning so many concepts from a single source. It's not limited to like, I'm just going to learn Kotlin. That happens in most of the learn Kotlin in 7 hours YouTube videos. Those videos are limited to that only. You will learn the language syntax, but you will not understand how you are linking the things. See, so now what is Kotlin? It's like a statically typed language. You'll soon, like this has a technical jargon to throw you and demotivate you. Basically, it's a pretty new language, but 2010, C++, Python and all are like in the 80s and 90s. That's like pretty old. It's a pretty new language, so it has a lot of considerations of the issues C++ or Java or Python programmers face. And it's free, open source, and used by 5.8 million developers. So people are already starting to catch up to technology. That is also the important thing in like development or technology, that you need to keep yourself up to date with the latest technologies. You cannot be like, I'm a very good programmer at C, I'm going to stick at C. That is not going to work. Society will move on. So eventually you need to switch to newer technologies, And Kotlin isn't just developed in 2010, it's already used by 5.8 million developers. So it's a very good time to catch on to the train. Next. Yeah, see, after Rust, TypeScript, Python, Kotlin is the fourth, 2020 most programming loved language. So you can understand how the trajectory is going up for this language. So that, next. Yeah, so this is some statistics that Google provided us just to highlight. I think those who know about segmentation faults and null pointer exceptions, they know it pretty well that how struggling it is to solve those problems. And feature of Kotlin is that it doesn't have any null pointer exception. It handles it internally. So see, that's how languages improve, right? Initially C had it, then C++ had it. Java tried to reduce the concept of pointers so that it doesn't have segmentation fault. Then it had null pointer exception. Now Kotlin is solving it using their own language. So that's how it improves. So these are some of the statistics which I think you can all go through after we upload the slides. Next. Next. Yeah, Google officially recognizes Kotlin as one of their own language. And now at last, before we shift to the next slide, to answer the Flutter versus Kotlin kind of the question. Thing is, Flutter is mostly used as a hybrid app development, those who understand it better, and there are some who understand it better, that it is made for both Android and iOS. So eventually, when you're trying to it's like putting your legs on two boards at once. So the issue is that you will get features of both of them, but you will lose on the compatibility part of thing. But if you're using Kotlin, you are exclusively limited on Android, and you can answer the issues which Android has specifically, easier than what you would try to do in a hybrid app development platform. So that is one of the principal reasons that one must know Kotlin, and of course they can know a hybrid development, a hybrid programming stack. So next. Yeah, so you want to before you say, we go to the heavy IDEs and all, there is a thing called Kotlin Playground. What's the benefit of this is if you want to try code snippets, I just want to practice the language. A language, you can use it for anything. It's not necessary that you need to have an app which is showing the output. You can just also show it on your console. That's how C and C++ work, right? You do not go for a GUI stuff directly. So Kotlin Playground is a website, kind of an website. So you can enter, write, practice your code, and then click run and it will show you the output. It's pretty simple and easy to use. Completely made for those who are still they just want to try to print something or try to test the logic or what the syntax is. So that is the Kotlin Playground is the first place you should start. First website to go and read out their syntax and try to do. Next. Now is the biggest thing, Android Studio. Keeping aside all the memes showing that a laptop heats up so much that you can boil an egg on it. So keeping aside all those things, Android Studio is the official place where you are going to be working on your apps. And Android Studio, the biggest benefit is it's an IDE, right? Integrated Developer Environment, and it's powered by IntelliSense. So the IntelliJ, and the biggest benefit is you don't have to remember each and every syntax. You need to know what you need to do, but they will assist you in everything. So it's not I need to know which underscore was there. Is there a capital I or a small I? And that's a pretty hard thing when you're trying to learn a new language. That will handle automatically for you. And also later when you're trying to design your app, you need to go through a concept itself is our language known as XML. That is if web developers would like to say, that is your front end. That's how the app looks. The structure I was talking about, right? The layouts. The layouts are much more important in XML. So in XML then, using your Android Studio, there are two options, split and layout view. Split is you can edit the XML code directly, the way people do on HTML. And the layout editor is, it will give you a dummy representation of your app, how it's going to look. Now you can use your own drag and drop. It's just like playing a computer game. You're dragging and drop objects, you're fixing the parameters, and it's making it relatively easier for a developer to, eventually it needs to be easy and it needs to save your time, and that's the way I think Google could come up with to save time. I said, right, no need of phones, right? I said that was optional. This is the reason. Android Studio will provide you with an emulator. Emulator is basically you will have a phone running on your virtual machine on a VM. So that can be any phone, Pixel 3. There are multiple options, Pixel 3, Pixel XL, and all, and different versions of Android. Whichever you want to test, whichever hardware you want to try it on. So those kind of options are available. You need that those set of instructions are also there. Once you set it up, you can run an app, test it natively on your laptop. You don't need to switch to your phone for that. If you want to switch to your phone for that, there is also an option for that. So that's why I said that it's optional to have an Android phone, but yeah, well, you're doing Android development, so eventually you'll have an Android phone someday. So at the third point is the user interface, which I said, right? I teased you before. There is a concept of XML. It's a markup language. It's like what HTML tries to be, but XML is like completely the equivalent of mobile development, and HTML is the web development equivalent. So there you organize how the layouts are, how you are going to put list, how are they going to look, what color, what theme, which font. They are like pretty much the bread and butter of a UI. Someone who's interested in UI UX. So thing is, you need to open the course, sit for a while, think about why you are doing this now. I try to give you a lot of points that why you should do it. So recall back and why you are doing this and how, and the hows are in the Android basics course. How will be there, and eventually there is a hackathon, which is like the ultimate goal, and I showed you what our actual ultimate goal should be. Hackathon is like fine, you're going to win a prize, that's fine, end of story. But eventually it's about making a mark as developers of this college. So that is what we should keep in mind and keep coming back, write mails to us, if you have any problems, if you have any doubts, to get it resolved. And of course, at the last is to modify our existing apps and add more features to them. That's how it should not stop. Like you tried for 1 month, you failed, you stopped. That's even worse. You have to finish it, of course, in some time, and that's how development should be. And we at GDAC are trying to promote that as most of your first development activity, and hope you all enjoy starting a thing Android development. It's pretty responsive, so I think you'll like to see that if I'm writing a syntax, what is the response to it. I hope you learned it, and these are the additional resources. We'll upload this on through your mail. You can access them directly, developerandroid.com, and there are a lot of blogs, YouTube channel. Their YouTube channel is pretty good. It's pretty good looking. So and of course you have to follow, and you can follow Android Dev on Twitter. And next. So eventually, the biggest biggest thing is that if you know something, you need to promote it. So you need to share your journey, your experience to everyone, right? And once you share it, right, your internal ego comes in. Then now I need to complete it. Because I told my friends that I'm going to do it, now you're forced to complete it, right? So this is the reason, do share with the hashtag Android Study Jams, and the Study Jams end in the first week of Jan. So we hope to see some great app submissions. Before I end the discussion here today, I would like to tease a bit about what the hackathon, how the internal organization of the hackathon is going to be about. And see, you can be in the teams of at max 4 participants. Teams of 4 at max. You can be 1 also. If you don't want to work in a team, completely your choice. But you can be in a team of 4. The app usually have 3 problem statements we have. It's a very informal way of saying, okay, we'll release the formal guidelines sometimes later, but since people might like to have a goal, right? At the end of the day, I want to do this in the hackathon. So as a guideline, I'm saying that there are 3 main goals. Public solutions. So that is solving a problem which you see daily for people around, public as a word suggests. Private solution for some company or some group of people, right? It can be related to doctors, it can be related to some construction worker, it can be related to some, or anything which is private. It's not a very big enterprise level, but you can help to solve it using your app development skills, which you will learn so far. And then you have the third one is college solutions. What do you want to give back to your college eventually as a developer? So these are the 3 pathways. Mostly we'll formally release the statements, what the problem statements are, but if you want to brainstorm about ideas, you can start doing it. And about the second session it will be in the last week of December. It will be mostly virtual this time because of the breaks. So I hope to see more participation there, and there we'll have some more hands-on experience. And because considering today's time constraints, already pretty late at night, so we'll have more hands-on experience, and till then it's mostly your objective is to go to the first link, go back slide. Yeah, go to the first link, check out their course and start working on it. I've started working on it. It's pretty good and it's pretty simple. Each unit takes maximum of 1 hour. And that too when you're lazy and you're doing 10 things at once. You're opening Instagram on one app on one side, your 10 or 20 tabs are open of something else. In that rate, it took 1 hour. So I think it will take much lesser. And that too for someone who has never done Kotlin. So keep developing. If any queries, feel free to come to us. Second session will announce it soon on GDSC platform. We'll mail the link to. And we'll share the links of our social handles and the contact information. Do follow them for updates. And well, happy learning. Thank you.